the cleaner who never leaves. I first noticed her at the office around 9 p.m., a figure in a gray uniform moving silently between cubicles. She looked like any ordinary cleaner, but something was off. No name tag, no bag, no cart, just endless, deliberate motion. At first, I assumed overtime staff. We were the last ones working that night, and the office often felt empty and echoing. But by the third night, she appeared at precisely the same time, her movements synchronized to my own tasks, always just a step behind. I mentioned it to my coworker, but they laughed it off. Probably a new cleaning service, they said. I wasn't convinced. Every time I turned around, she vanished, only to reappear moments later in another corner of the floor. One night, I stayed late intentionally, hiding behind a cubicle. I watched her glide across the room, her hands hovering over keyboards, not touching, not interacting, yet leaving faint impressions in the air, like invisible fingerprints that pressed against reality itself. By the fourth night, whispers began, soft, unintelligible, coming from empty hallways. My phone recorded them as faint static, layered with something that sounded like my own voice, repeating tasks I hadn't yet done, reminders I had never spoken aloud. She began leaving notes, minimal, typed, anonymous. I see you. Do not leave your desk. Every move is cataloged. Fear settled in my chest like a stone. I couldn't rationalize it. No other employees, no janitorial schedules, nothing explained her existence. I tried ignoring her, pretending to leave early. She appeared anyway, standing silently in the corridor, watching, unmoving, unblinking. Her presence pressed against the edges of my mind, pulling focus, stretching time, bending attention toward her without words, without sound. One evening, I attempted to confront her. I stepped out of my cubicle, heart hammering, flashlight in hand. The office was empty. The janitor was gone. I called her name. No response. Then, from the darkness, a soft scrape echoed behind me, deliberate, precise. The next day, I discovered faint streaks on the floor, footprints that should not exist. They began outside my office, arcing across empty space, ending beneath my chair. I had not seen her move, yet she had been everywhere, cataloging, observing, learning my habits. I tried to leave early. The elevator refused to work, doors stuck open, lights flickering. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, ceiling tiles rearranged subtly, as if the building itself had become her playground, her territory, her world of observation. I began recording video, hoping to capture proof. Playbacks revealed impossible things, shadows moving independently, reflections showing her in impossible angles. My own movements slightly delayed, mirrored, amplified, as though someone had rewound reality to follow me. Sleep became impossible. Even at home, I felt her presence. Shadows moved against walls, lights flickered, and sometimes faint echoes of scraping footsteps, synchronized with my own, carried through my apartment. She had followed, or perhaps she had always been everywhere. Packages began arriving, unmarked, minimal, containing nothing but small cleaning cloths, perfectly folded, unnaturally crisp. I dared not touch them. Their appearance reminded me that distance was irrelevant. Awareness followed, recording, cataloging, anticipating my movements at every moment. At 1:47 a.m., I woke to a faint hum, a rhythm like the tapping of fingers against a desk. The office felt alive again, stretching across the city, imprinting the pattern into my mind. She was patient, eternal, waiting for recognition, waiting for acknowledgement, observing without needing to act. I finally understood. She was not human in any conventional sense. She moved silently. She observed endlessly. She recorded. Resistance only sharpened her awareness. Submission, acknowledgement, attention. These were the only ways to coexist, even temporarily, under her gaze. I sit now at my desk at home, computer on, lights dim, fingers hovering above the keyboard. I can feel her presence pressing through walls, windows, and reflections. Every movement is mirrored, every decision cataloged, every hesitation amplified, documented, remembered. If you ever notice someone or something moving silently in your environment, keeping perfect time with your routines, or leaving messages you cannot explain, consider carefully how you respond. Open the horror box cautiously, and subscribe to witness what lurks in the unseen. She will not stop. She never leaves. And every night, at exactly 1:47 a.m., I can feel her glide across space, cataloging every heartbeat, every thought. Awareness does not require action. It only requires attention. And I am already hers. The intruder upstairs. I never noticed the footsteps until they started syncing with mine. At first, I assumed it was the old pipes or my imagination, but the rhythm was deliberate, echoing in the ceiling above, with a cadence too precise to be accidental. It began around 11 p.m., soft and distant, but unmistakable. Every time I moved through the apartment, the sounds shifted, always a half step behind, as if someone were mimicking me from above, learning my routines, measuring me. I tried to ignore it, keeping busy, watching TV, scrolling through my phone, anything to distract myself. But the steps persisted, growing louder each night, punctuated by pauses that made my heart pound in anticipation of the next sequence. A week in, I left a recorder on the floor. Playback revealed something impossible. The footsteps responded to my movement in real time, stopping and starting with my own steps, echoing patterns I hadn't yet made, as if someone or something was predicting me. I checked the ceiling, tried to see through cracks in the old plaster, but nothing was visible. No neighbors, no signs of forced entry, nothing. Yet the apartment above mine had lights on at odd hours, sometimes flickering, sometimes dark, perfectly silent. I began sleeping with knives at hand, flashlight by my bed, curtains drawn tight. The first night, I woke to scratching along the ceiling, slow, deliberate, following the path of my dreams, as if it knew where I would move even before I did. Notes appeared under my door, unmarked, typed, minimal. One said, "I see everything, even what you hide." Another, days later, read, "Do not leave your apartment. You are being studied." Fear became a physical presence, curling in my chest. I called the building manager. He said the upstairs apartment had been vacant for months. No tenants, no records. I asked about maintenance of squatters. He shrugged. Old building. Anything can happen. But the rhythm, the precision, could not be accidental. I attempted to leave. The moment I stepped into the hallway, the footsteps began again, soft at first, then pounding, moving above me as if guiding my path, marking my exit. Panic gripped me, but I ran to the elevator. It jolted, stopped, lights flickered, delaying my escape. I began recording video, trying to capture evidence, but cameras were useless. The ceiling remained empty, the apartment above silent. Yet every night, at precisely 1:33 a.m., the footsteps began, perfectly timed to my breathing, my heart, my subconscious movements. One night, I woke to the sound of breathing, deep, measured, directly over my bed. My sheets felt weightless, as if someone or something was shifting the air, leaning close. I could sense a presence, impossible to see, yet undeniably there. The next day, I found faint scratches on the ceiling, not visible from below at first glance. Tiny, deliberate, forming symbols I couldn't understand. I tried to ignore them, but I knew someone had been there, above me, observing, recording every detail. Sleep became impossible. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of light felt like a signal. I moved furniture, blocked vents, tried to mask my movement, but the rhythm never failed. Footsteps, scratches, soft breathing, always a step behind, always learning. I attempted a confrontation. I stood in the apartment, shouting, pounding the ceiling. Silence. Then, a single tap above. Sharp, deliberate. I called out. Another tap. One more. The sequence repeated, precise, mocking, as if communicating on a schedule I could not yet comprehend. I considered leaving permanently, moving across town. But even the thought triggered footsteps above my head, scratches along the ceiling, a whisper faint and chilling. Do not run. You belong here. The apartment itself seemed to pulse, alive with observation, aware of my fear. Packages began appearing. Small, anonymous, sometimes containing tools, sometimes photographs. One photo showed me sleeping, taken from above, perfectly framed. The others were of my apartment, empty, angles I could not have reached or captured. At 1:33 a.m., the footsteps grew faster, louder, synchronized with my own heartbeat. A whisper echoed faintly. I know you. I am everywhere you are. Panic overtook me. I bolted from my bed, flashlight shaking, knife clutched. Every step mirrored, amplified, anticipated. I barricaded doors, windows, vents. But even then, the sounds followed. Scratches along the ceiling, footsteps in the hall outside, soft knocks on walls that shouldn't have been touched. The entity was patient, eternal, learning my routines, cataloging fear. Recording every night revealed impossible things. Shadows moving independently, footsteps appearing where none could exist, ceiling panels slightly shifted, whispers echoing my own words before I could speak them. Awareness had become sentient, focused entirely on me. The final escalation came last week. I woke to see faint light beneath the bedroom door. Scratches, slow and deliberate, traced a path toward my bed. A whisper. It's time. I froze, realizing the intruder was no longer above. Somehow inside, intangible yet tangible, omnipresent. I remain here now, writing in dim light, counting minutes until 1:33 a.m. I cannot sleep, cannot escape. Every sound is amplified, every shadow a threat, every reflection a hint of presence above, beyond, around me. My heartbeat marks time for something patient, something eternal. If you hear steps that match your own, scratches in places no one should reach, or whispers repeating your thoughts, consider carefully what you do next. Open the horror box cautiously. And if you want to witness the unseen before it finds you, subscribe. The footsteps continue tonight. They always do. I know the rhythm by heart. I know the sequence. And I know that someone or something is learning everything about me, one step at a time. The package that shouldn't exist. I returned home one Friday night to find a small, unmarked package sitting on my doorstep. There was no note, no indication of who it was from, only the subtle hum of the city fading behind me as I stared at its plain brown cardboard. At first, I thought it was a delivery mistake, maybe a neighbor's order left in my care. But the tape sealing the box was slick, industrial grade, unlike anything I had used. I considered leaving it outside, but a strange compulsion urged me to pick it up. Inside, wrapped in plain white tissue, was a small black cube, smooth, cold, unassuming. I turned it in my hands, noticing that it made no sound, reflected no light, yet felt impossibly heavy. A faint vibration hummed through my fingertips as I considered its presence. That night, I left it on the kitchen counter. Sleep didn't come. I kept imagining the cube moving slightly when I wasn't looking, like it had awareness, like it watched me in the dark. Shadows in the room began to twist subtly, drawn toward it. I tried to ignore it, focusing on mundane routines, dishes, laundry, emails. But the feeling of being observed intensified. Every reflection, every glass surface seemed to hold a faint silhouette leaning closer, waiting for me to notice. Curiosity felt dangerous, yet irresistible. At 1:12 a.m., the first sound came. A soft scratching, faint but deliberate, emanating from the cube itself. My heart raced. I picked it up. The vibration grew stronger. I dropped it, and it landed upright, edges perfectly aligned, unshaken, as if mocking me. The next morning, I discovered faint markings along the edges of the cube, almost imperceptible. They resembled letters, numbers, symbols I could not comprehend. I photographed them, zoomed in, traced them with my fingers. They seemed to shift slightly when I blinked or looked away. That night, I placed a recorder beside the cube, hoping for proof of something tangible, something explainable. When I played it back the next morning, my own voice was there, whispering, soft and fragmented. Do not open, do not touch, do not listen. The cube began appearing in my dreams. I woke to the hum in the room, waking images of hands reaching toward it from impossible angles. Sleep became shallow, fragmented, each moment haunted by the vibration, by the soft whispers that carried no words, but a weight I understood instinctively. I tried to get rid of it. I placed it in a bag, carried it to the dumpster outside, watched it lie among garbage. I returned hours later. The cube sat on my counter, exactly where I had left it. No footprints, no sign of movement, yet impossibly, it had returned. Even the lights seemed altered when it was near. Shadows bent strangely. Reflections became inconsistent. My phone screen occasionally displayed faint silhouettes behind me, flickering in static moments. The cube's presence made everything around it subtly wrong, unreal, yet perfectly aligned. One night, I dared to ask aloud what it wanted. The room was silent, still, yet the vibration increased. A faint scratching traced along my arms, as though unseen hands were holding me, pressing me toward attention, toward acknowledgement, toward something I could not yet comprehend. A neighbor came by the next day, unexpected. They knocked, polite, smiling. I invited them in. The moment they entered, they froze, eyes wide, staring at nothing. They whispered, "I know what you have. Don't keep it here." Before I could respond, they were gone. No car, no footsteps, nothing. I started sleeping with a knife on my pillow, placing the cube in a small cardboard box in the center of the room. Even then, it vibrated gently, like a heartbeat, counting down, keeping time, marking me in some way. I realized it did not want to be destroyed. It wanted recognition. One evening, I recorded myself explaining the cube, hoping to capture proof. The playback revealed impossible footage. The cube in different positions than I remembered, markings shifting, my voice fragmented and overlaid with whispers I had never spoken. It was then I noticed the subtle patterns. Small movements in the cube seemed to correspond with events in my life, choices I made, even thoughts I had not spoken aloud. The cube was a record, a tracker, a silent observer cataloging me with precision. The first faint knock came the night after that realization. 3 slow knocks against the walls, spaced 5 seconds apart. I froze. I had not heard anyone, yet the pattern was deliberate, impossible, echoing the rhythm of my heartbeat, marking me, warning me. The next morning, I opened my laptop. On the desktop appeared a file I had not created, a video, muted, showing my apartment empty, yet moving shadows danced along the walls. The cube sat center frame. It had recorded what I could not see, what I could not yet understand. I considered leaving it outside, far away from home. I walked several blocks with it, intending to discard it in a park, in a ditch, anywhere. Hours later, I returned. The cube was sitting on my counter, humming gently, mocking every effort to remove it from my life. Sleep became impossible. Every night at 1:47 a.m., a soft vibration echoed through the cube, scratches along its sides, whispers and voices that mimicked my own. I learned not to approach it, not to speak to it directly, yet I could not ignore it, could not escape it. I began leaving my phone recording each night. Playbacks revealed a steady progression. The cube subtly moving closer to me, reflections showing impossible angles, shadows stretching across the room. It cataloged me, studied me, anticipated my movements, learning my habits with frightening accuracy. Packages started arriving, unmarked, identical, each containing small black cubes, each humming, each vibrating gently. I dared not open them. The first had come as a warning. Now they multiplied, each one an extension of awareness, a network, a presence beyond comprehension. I realized the cube wanted me to notice, to observe, to acknowledge. My fear was part of its function. Resistance only drew attention. Acceptance, even passive acknowledgement, was the only way to exist without provocation, though it was not protection, only delay. At 1:47 a.m. last night, the cube vibrated violently, scraping against the table. A whisper echoed clearly in my ears. Do not leave, do not ignore, do not forget. My pulse spiked. I shivered, knowing this message was not a suggestion. It was a command, a ritual of recognition. If you ever receive a package that seems impossible, unmarked, humming with its own life, know that curiosity can be dangerous. Open the horror box carefully, and if you want to witness what lies waiting in the dark before it comes to you, subscribe. The cube sits now in the center of the room, vibrating softly. I do not touch it. I do not approach it. I do not speak of it aloud. The hum is constant, the whispers steady, marking time, observing me. The package was never just a delivery. It is a presence, patient, eternal, and watching. Even as I write this, I feel its subtle vibration under the table, a pulse syncing with my own heartbeat. Every shadow stretches toward it. Every reflection captures a fraction of its awareness. I understand now. I am catalogued, measured, recognized, and its attention will not waver. I have learned that every time you feel watched in a place that should be safe, every flicker of shadow, every faint, inexplicable noise, you are closer to the horror box than you realize. Open carefully, and if you dare, subscribe to witness what waits in the dark.